Let's have a little chat about wages in the Premier League. £500,000, the barrier for which is going to be smashed if someone gets hold of Erling Haaland. Manchester City are the favourites currently. Trevor, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
I think they need a goal scorer. I think they need a striker. So, yeah, I would be for that.
Happy to pay that sort of money? Actually, don't answer that. Tell me instead who the top 5 earners are in the Premier League at the moment. Do you know?
I would say Kevin De Bruyne.
Yep, number 1, Kevin De Bruyne, £385 per week. £85,000 a week, not for £85. David De Gea in at number 3, £375,000 a week.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
In at number 2, £385,000 a week.
Virgil van Dijk.
Virgil van Dijk does not make the top 5 list. Every single one of the top 5 are in Manchester.
Wow. Raheem's not signed a contract recently.
No. Simon, would you like to steal?
I don't care. I'm not interested in talking about players' wages.
Jadon Sancho both earn around about $350,000 a week. A host of morning reports suggest that Manchester City remain front runners to sign Erling Haaland. The summer transfer could be in line with £500,000 a week, eclipsing the likes of De Bruyne and De Gea. This would come 1 year on from Manchester City becoming the first Premier League club to break the £100 million barrier to buy a player with a transfer fee. So you're comfortable with that level of expenditure?
Well, listen, if you're talking about sporting integrity, as we have been in the show today, I don't think it's good for the game. I don't think it's good for the longevity of the game. I don't think it's good for the ownership model of the game at the moment. I think the Premier League needs to look at that seriously regarding states owning clubs. And I believe goal scoring in football is probably the most difficult thing to do. So you expect the strikers to be paid the most money. He is a great striker, but I'd like to have some incentives in there.
There's no way that anybody else in world football is going to pay £500,000. So why are we driving wages up that so
exactly
high?
So this is why I'm not for it. But if they are going to sign him, I would like to see the wages not just be 100% wages. I think bonuses, achievements, sporting achievements, silverware, goals should be added into that. But he's going to get a lot of money wherever he goes. I would like him to come to the Premier League, but again, sporting integrity, you have to question it.
You don't want to talk about how much players earn, but
no, listen, I do want to talk about how much players earn because I do
the
think
mechanics of it is a problem for the game, isn't it?
Well, it's always been a problem for the game because the desire to control football and its expenditure has long since receded into the distance because we've allowed what I believe and what I wrote about the other day, which was the worst thing to happen to the Premier League, was Roman Abramovich. I said it at the time when I was in football. I didn't just jump on the bandwagon like a lot of people do now that Abramovich has fallen.
But why do you say that?
Because it drove up inflation. It didn't build football organically. It didn't allow football to settle and find its own feet in terms of understand that an industry has to be self-sustaining. You've just seen the living embodiment of a business that's not self-sustaining. Roman Abramovich is the reasons why Chelsea are able to afford to operate in the last 19 years the way they've done. Roman Abramovich gets taken down. A football club potentially finds itself in a situation. 10 years ago, I ran out of money. Well, the football club I was involved with had challenges. The fact I was the biggest creditor and allowed it to go through is a different discussion, and I wasn't being sanctioned by a government, is a different dynamic. But notwithstanding it, the industry bases itself upon a ridiculous, immature outlook of profit and sustainability being the governing protocol, and there's no interest in profit or sustainability because you're allowed to lose 105 million quid as the guidelines. So when you look at wages and you say, what are players getting paid? Look, I don't think there's a justification for a footballer to get paid $500,000 a week, but I also don't think there's a justification for a movie star to get £25 million a film. So you look at the talent and say, well, okay, the industries are about talent. The problem for me is that when you get ownership models like Manchester City, like Newcastle will become, like Chelsea, they didn't own these football clubs because they wanted to build a football club and understood the value of it in terms of what it was for football. They built it because they had ulterior motives, whether it's to legitimise Roman Abramovich, whether it's to legitimise Saudi Arabia or whatever it is. So the consequence of it is everybody else gets dragged along on this ride of hyperinflation. So here you are now. Unless you're going to underpin this industry with proper governance, what the football industry should be doing is saying, right, we demand that every football club must make profit. End of discussion, must make profit. And then we demand that only 50% of that profit can be given to owners. The rest has to be reinvested back into the industry.
Yeah, but arguably, Simon, you're not going to make a profit if you don't have the best players in the world playing in the league, which is what generates the high TV revenues.
If you, yes, of course, talent drives the revenues in terms of the fact that if they haven't got a club to play for, there'll be no revenues full stop because there'll be no clubs.
But they might go to play for Barcelona or Real
Madrid. Barcelona and Real Madrid
have
have got wage caps. Spanish league have already put it in.
But they have now.
They put it in, and what? That's the byproduct of looking at the world, saying we cannot compete with the Middle Eastern money, we cannot compete with Russian money because we don't have it in our league. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to regulate football. So what happens then is, if you put a situation where football says full stop, investment coming into football is a good thing, uncontrolled investment, not a good thing. Investment that destroys the ecosystem and creates hyperinflation from the Premier League.
That's what Trevor's doing in the corner.
Inflation from the Premier League down to the League One because everybody's affected, or League Two, everybody's affected by the drip down effect. There's nothing wrong if you want to pay, Manchester City want to pay this kid 500 grand a week, as offensive as that might be to some people. If there's a governance in place that Man City are turning over £400 million a year and their wage bill is 70% of turnover, and included in that is a 500 grand a week salary for Erling Haaland, up to them.
Yeah, but arguably though, Simon, if that is the case, then you never get a situation where a new club that hasn't got heritage and doesn't have the commercial reach of something like Manchester United and Liverpool could ever build the funds to be able to compete at the top level.
Then you give latitude to people to be able to have an investment.
But you're a supporter of Manchester City. They didn't build slowly.
I'm not saying they did.
Water clash.
I'm not saying they did. I'm with Simon here. I don't think it's great for the Premier League or football in general. And I kind of say kudos to the Spanish league.
But it's not.
It'll hurt them short term, but long term, they won't be having clubs going under.
It's not beyond the wit of man to allow investment in for a certain period of time. To say we accept that in order to make sure that there is an opportunity for clubs to build, there is an opportunity for clubs that don't have the livery, the heritage, the history to be able to compete with those that have that ability, that are already earning £400 million a year because they've already established their position.
Okay, so
then there should be like a 3-year window where you can invest 250 million quid.
Okay, so
and we'll let you invest a certain amount and we'll let you capitalise those losses and we'll give you some chance to be able to catch up. But it doesn't go on ad infinitum. You don't get to do it every year ad infinitum. You don't get to artificially change sponsorship deals.
Right.
Is that what you're saying has happened at Chelsea?
Well, I'm saying that with the models that are in place, there hasn't been proper governance with Chelsea.
Well, no, Chelsea haven't had artificial sponsors. They've just had a bloke quite willing to pumping loads of cash.
And Manchester City arguably have had sponsors that have been indexed to the businesses that own the football club and been able to inflate their sponsorship prices, and CAS ruled against that objective or that particular accusations, whereas UEFA upheld it, and the Premier League have abstained from doing anything about it because the Premier League abstained from doing most things that they think will damage their brand. The bottom line is that if you can pay players whatever you want as long as there's a governance in place that ensures
that is in place, isn't it?
Well, it is. In the Premier League, you're allowed to lose 105 million quid. You're allowed to capitalise losses in a variety of different ways. You're allowed to find ways around losing it. The bottom line is that losses shouldn't be allowed in sports clubs. They should be a basic discipline which says you have to make profit. And then people would say, well, we don't want that profit.
After an investment window.
After an investment window, because then you kill the argument that you've made, which is a very fair argument, which is, how does anybody catch up with people that are already in the distance?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.